Okay, guys, so I just deleted a bunch of stuff in my storage. All right, so part three, this should be the last video on this business. Um, be be taking jobs, take jobs. It's not that you cannot keep a job, it's that nope, I've mastered this skill, I've got it down. There's another opportunity, and I'm going to invest in myself. So invest in yourself. And my applications go out, especially in another part of town. Okay, this side of town is slower to hire. I don't know why, but get your application out there. I did update it a little bit because I was like, geez, what's going on? Why are people so slow to hire? I haven't done a resume, but I have my application. So get that out there, improve it, and then get a resume. So I will be working on mine. And usually it's just person to person that I get the interviews. And so this interview, she's like, what is it? She kind of threw me off a little bit. What's the last thing you've done to make someone feel special, right? So people are looking for more than just, yeah, you work hard, but they're looking for like, what kind of person are you? And we're living in an economy that's a bit different than, years ago. It's just hard work. Now it's, who's nice? I think nice is the new oil, so to say, who's nice. So when's the last time I did something to make someone feel special? So I hesitated and I'm like, today. And I said that there was someone on the bus who was looking for work, and I recommended they come on over with me because we're always hiring. So she's like, okay, and then I said, okay. And the day before that, I had met somebody who was like, I'm going to be homeless if I cannot find work. And again, it's like this certain area of town, because when I went to a different side of town, I mean, within 100 feet, I found 4 jobs within like 100 feet of each other. So, she's like, I'm going to be homeless. And I'm like, well, come on over where I am. And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And so from one person to another, my hair's super flat because I had it up. One person to another, it's like, hey, I know what it's like, so let me help you. So I'm like, give them a call right now, which she did. And I'm like, just, this is the person who you want to talk to, da da da. So she's like, thank you so much. And she had her resume right on her. And she goes, if you're going to work, if you're on your way, can you give it to them? I'm like, yeah. So, I mean, she was very prepared. So, so I told this person there's been 2 people I helped with jobs recently. I said, I also helped the homeless with food. And then I said, I also help mom, be able to find resources to keep their babies. So she's like, okay, very good. So then the job interview went on. And like I said, for parents, go against the grain of your kids. Actually, purposely go against their grain. Train them to be people who, are not spoiled, that they don't always have to have their own way. So, for me, because like, okay, so I'm interviewed and they're like, we cannot, first interview was like, we cannot hire someone right out of high school over here. An 18-year-old who has never, had serving experience will get killed over here. That's how busy we are. And so even today, they're like, we need someone who can really hustle. Tell me about your experiences waitressing. So even though I've had my foot in the Broadmoor, they're like, what is that like over there, and how is it like, what is your experience, over there compared to here? It's a little bit different. What's your experience? And I'm like, well, I go, when I was at Beefside Restaurant, I took the whole entire room. I took the whole room. I said, I didn't even have time to go to the bathroom. Now, you're talking about when I was at Beefside. I was trying to think about how many tables. I told her it was like from more than half of this room I would take. So on the way home, I was thinking it was a good 20 tables at least, good 20 that I would take just me. And that's how good I was in my younger days. So even now though, I've had big tables when I've waitressed, and I've done really good. So I mean, people love me. I give great service. The last person who interviewed me here on my first interview, she's like, I just called the place and I'm like, are you hiring for server? And she's like, no, but we need a bus person. Someone on the phone said that. So I'm like, fine, give me a busing job. I need a second job, which is a downgrade for me. But until I feel like I'm going to get on my feet, I am going to just take a job, right? So, so she interviews me and she's like, ah, you're too good to be a busser. You're not a busser. You're not a runner. You're not a takeout person, which I've done all those. She goes, you're a waitress. And I go, oh, I know that. And that's why I called. I wanted a waitress. So, she's like, I see that in you. You got the people skills. So, basically, even at my job, I'm put out front with people. Um, and some people drive me crazy. So it's like, why, it's kind of an oxymoron. You have people skills, but some of the people can drive you up the wall. So, what I'm trying to say too is, as you look at the jobs out there, you just got to be somebody. I mean, especially nowadays with another job that hired me, they're like, we look for three things in people. We look for, let's see, we look for teamwork. We're not going to be like people who are like wanting to hire people like, oh, I don't want to work with that person today. So teamwork, getting along with people, being able to hustle, being able to move. And I'm trying to think of the third one. I forget. It wasn't even being on time. So people are starting to look for different things. And, it's interesting because I've looked at companies. I've taken a step back from my jobs and I'm like, what are companies doing? How are they, what are companies doing to make things better? What are they doing to make employees happy? So one company I had interviewed with, and they were like, we actually partner with farms, and we actually, Chipotle, they're like, we actually give work to farmers. All of our food is fresh. So, long story short, make sure you're somebody who can be flexible and you're like, yeah, I mean, don't be really, willful or really, someone who's very particular. Someone gives you work, take the work, learn the skills. I do have to brush up on some of my alcohol. That is a weak point for me because I don't drink. So I have to brush up on those skills. I have to overcome that. And then when I graduated early from high school, nobody saw the dyslexia in me until I went to work at the Cat and Fiddle after. And someone's like, hey, you got the spoon and the knife, backwards. And I'm like, what? And they're like, you got it backwards. And I'm like, I don't see it. And they're like, yeah, you got to look again. So, I mean, it took like 2 or 3 times. It was like, I don't see it, right? I just don't see it. So, it's in my reading too, in my spelling too. I have a little bit of dyslexia. It comes out once in a while. I think it comes out like when I'm more in a rush. So, know your weak points, know your strong points, work off your strong points, right? I don't have to know all the alcohols out there, and I don't have to know all the dishes out there to sell. Someone had said that to me before. They're like, oh, I don't even eat pork chops, but I know how to sell pork chops. So if you know how to sell when you're a waitress and you've got those people skills, use all your strong points that you do have. Okay, thanks for joining me, guys.